You know what this is? You should. It's an airlock. Hi, I'm Brian.
I'm Derica, and today we're talking about airlocks and blow-off tubes.
Exciting stuff, right? This is another one of those videos that I didn't think needed to be made, but the plethora, a virtual cornucopia, if you will, of questions that people have had about these things and the misconceptions and myths and downright misinformation have forced us into this predicament. So, essentially, these are airlocks, okay? This is the S-type, this is a 3-piece, and this one's just on a stopper that's no longer going to be in the video. We don't need bloopers. Anyway, the main difference between these is just in appearance. They actually work the same way. They do the same job. This one, you put liquid in it up to the fill line right there, and what happens is as the gases start pushing out from the main fermenter, they push into this tube first, forcing the water all the way to this side, all the way on this side. A lot of people have been freaked out. They're like, why is all the water on one side? That's the way it works. It's called physics. Anyway, so what happens is then the gas will just, you know, bloop, bloop, it'll bubble up through that one, and it goes out. Nothing can come back in. You're not really using water, by the way. It's either sanitizer water or some sort of alcohol. Please don't use rubbing alcohol. If it happened to go negative pressure and come back into your brew, that stuff's not good for you. Don't do that. I use the cheapest scotch that I could find, or like cheap vodka. I use this one scotch because I want it to go away. But anyway, so that's the S-type. The 3-piece, like the name says, has 3 pieces. You put some water in here up to about there. This sits on top of that, then you have a cap. It will work without the cap. However, the cap is actually a primary part of the system because the water's up to about here. So it pushes that cap up till it hits the top. Now you have just a little bit of pressure created, much like this with the weight of the water creates a slight amount of pressure, and then it'll force its way up and bubble through. Same idea. Things get out, don't come back in. And when we say things, I mean bugs. And by bugs, I mean actual bacteria, actual bad little microscopic things, as well as fruit flies and other insects that will try to get in. Every once in a while, somebody will be like, oh, there's a fruit fly in my airlock. Yeah, guess what? That means it worked. Do you have to get rid of it right away? If you used alcohol, I wouldn't really worry too much. It's kind of gross, but as long as it's not sucking it down inside your brew, nothing's going to happen. He's going to sit there in alcohol, and he's sterile in more ways than one.
So, how do you tell if your airlock is not working? If the level stays here and never ever changes, like multiple days doesn't change, that means there's an air leak somewhere. Either around the gasket that your actual airlock goes into your container, or
Seal.
particularly if you're using a bucket, the seal around the lid.
Essentially, there's 3 states. There's no pressure, positive pressure, and negative pressure. Okay, this is the easiest way to say it. No pressure means the levels are the same this way. Positive pressure means on the side that would be closest to going into your fermenter, there's nothing here. It's all on this side. Or this side is higher than this side.
Right.
That's positive pressure. Negative pressure is, you know,
the
opposite, where this side is lower than this side. Negative pressure can happen because you bottled or started your brew at a warmer temperature than room temperature. So as the air contracts, it sucks that back in, creating a little bit of a vacuum. It could be bad only if it sucks it all the way in and you lose all the liquid. Now your airlock isn't really an airlock anymore, it's just an air tube. So you want to refill that. But if you used a neutral spirit or even sanitizer water, the small amount that's in there, not going to hurt a thing.
So, when else is this not working? When you have an overactive fermentation.
Oh, yeah.
And not only do you have positive pressure, but it's erupting out the top everywhere, making a mess.
When you start seeing foam coming up into this, that's when it's time to use what's called a blow-off tube. Really, really simple to do. If I still had that rubber stopper, I would show you that you take this end of the tube and put it in the rubber stopper. So you don't even, I just remove the airlock. I don't even remove the stopper. Just plug this into the stopper, put this in. I usually put sanitized water in here because that's a lot of alcohol. And I'll use this size jar, I'll use a quart jar, whatever, just as long as it's secure. And that's gonna sit like that. And this larger tube will let that gas come out. And, you know, even if it foams into it, it's okay. Rinse it out, clean it out. But
it's a good idea to secure this to this at some
tape or something like that.
We normally
just
use
rubber
tape
band, even
or whatever.
Whatever you can do.
Because if it's really active, it could just push this out,
and
I've
had that
have it everywhere.
So the idea behind a blow-off tube and an airlock is they're really the same thing. Okay, they do the same job. A blow-off tube is just larger for a larger scale or a more active fermentation. I usually only need a blow-off tube for beer, and even then, it's only usually like the first couple of days.
Yeah.
And then after that, I go back to an airlock, and it's just fine. Some other things that have come up. Somebody told me just yesterday that you don't need airlocks. Just loosening the lid works just as well. It may do some of the job, okay? It creates a little bit of a, you know, the gas can come out and all that sort of thing. The problem is you've now created an open air condition where anything can get in there. And I'm sorry, they do. I mean, it might not happen every time. It might never happen to you. But when it does, you just ruined your brew over something that costs $2. I mean, $2 to $3. I know in certain parts of the world these are hard to get and they do cost more, and I'm really sorry about that, but you can always make one of these and it's still safer than just uncorking the lid. People have gotten creative and used hot glue guns and all kinds of stuff and made their own. There's lots of things you can do. So much better than, you know, just leaving the lid open or using a balloon. Balloons are bad, and here's why they're bad. If that balloon breaks, comes off, you now have an open air condition again, but it's even worse because now the whole lid is just open. Not a good idea. Plus, they can create extra pressure, causing bad things to happen with the actual fermentation itself. It's not forcing the gases out, it's forcing it back into solution, making the yeast swim in their own waste that much more under a pressurized condition. That's not good for them. Don't do that. And if you poke holes, sure, yeah, can you get it exactly right so that you don't have too much pressure though? I can't, so whatever. Anyway.
One final word, and that's on cleaning. This one is relatively easy to clean because it comes apart and you can use
That's why they're so popular.
A brush to get in there and get all the crevices. This one, however, you can't do that. You can come up this end and come down this end partially, but you're never really going to get all the way in there unless you have a super bendy like pipe cleaner or something that you can force your way in there.
You just use the ray gun that changes your size and
you're
climb in
gonna
there.
poke. So because we fill these with sanitizer liquid, it's kind of a self-cleaning system. The only time it becomes problematic is when we do have an overactive fermentation and some of our fermented beverage gets up in here, especially the bubbles and the foam. If you don't rinse that out right away, you could get proteins and stuff sticking to the side and it won't come out and it'll be very annoying. Soak them into sanitizer, but if you use an acid-based sanitizer like we do, remember these are plastic and it will erode if you keep it in there for too long.
Anything else you want to add? If you still have questions on airlocks or blow-off tubes, please leave them in the comments below. We do tend to get to the comments every single day, usually within just a few hours of leaving them. So if you don't understand something, if something wasn't clear, ask away. Be happy to help out. In the meantime, though, if you like this video, please give us a thumbs up. If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up. And, you know, if you want to see what we're up to, hit the subscribe button and that little bell icon so you get notified every time we make something new. And thanks for watching, guys. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.